it comes up.
No, that's what I'm gonna hit record right now, and we're just gonna we're just gonna go,
Yeah.
you know.
So I guess really quickly, like we're in the Amazon, and when you go to the Amazon, it's like you get on a boat and you sit on, it's like a pontoon boat, and you sit on it for like 4 hours, and then you get off the boat and you're in the jungle. Like there aren't roads, there aren't, you know, and so we have like little hike packs, and then she's got on Birkenstocks and the old like 30-gallon suitcase.
Jeez.
And we literally had to cross like a log over a ravine, and like she's like just like falling over, and I'm just like, this is exactly why travel is, I don't know, it's not for everyone.
I just like I don't pack light, nor do I really ever want to go on a trip where I have to.
I have a quick question about that. What's your do you know what your personality type is? Like your
my Myers-Briggs?
Yeah.
I'm an ISFJ.
Okay, I was gonna say, I thought maybe you were an INTJ, but ISFJ, that's really funny. I'm an ISFP.
Wow.
Wow. We are very similar.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Yay. No, I there was one point in my life where I took it again, and I kind of toggled between I and E. I think I was in college, or it was like right after.
Yeah.
But I hate those questions. Like I take those personality tests, and I hate those questions where it's like, if you're at a party, what do you do? Are you chatting with everyone, or are you standing against the wall? And it's like, well, if I know everyone, sure, I'm chatting with everyone, but if I don't, then yes, I'm standing against the wall because I don't like strangers.
Right.
So I have always been, I think, like the same code. Apart from that, but I go for people like, and it's funny because again they always say like, oh, you want someone who, you know, you go for someone who's like your parents. My dad is like the complete opposite of me.
Yeah.
And a lot of my like romantic partners are pretty much like the complete opposite of me. So I don't know what that says.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like I typically go for at the very least extroverts, because now the exception would be Paul. I feel like Paul is an extrovert, but what I do find is that when we usually go out to parties, I'm the one leading the conversations.
Yeah.
Because I just so happen, I am an introvert, but I'm very interested in people and like learning people's stories. So usually if I go out to a party, I'm the person who's like in the corner with somebody who's like, tell me your trauma.
Yeah.
You know, and I just, but like, you know, and then Paul's like, oh, do you snowboard? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I tend to go for extroverts, and I tend, you know, so that I can lean on them heavily when I'm not in my like best social mind. Yeah. And then it's interesting too, because most of my close friends back home are like INTJs, which are, it's the polar, nearly the polar opposite of myself.
Yeah.
But I do find that they bring very interesting perspectives to the table, and again, it's that whole like opposites attract thing where you're like, I am literally just swinging from emotion to emotion sometimes, and then they bring me down to earth, I guess. But again, that's that F and that P, the feeling and perceiving.
I'm a big F. I'm a big feel.
Same.
Big feeling.
I got big feelings.
Big feeling, yeah. Man, this man's making so much noise.
He's like, I'm just gonna poop on the podcast. Okay, that leads me into something completely different.
Okay.
What is something that you like that lives rent free in your head? And I'm gonna go first because I've been thinking about it a lot lately.
Go first.
I was walking Marshmallow, and I saw a corgi poop for the first time.
Oh God.
And like, you know how they're
not on the counter. Not right now. Oh, sorry, guys. Go this way. Okay, bye. Bye. This man always, he gets in his litter box and he wants to jump on the counter immediately, and I have to like distract him.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay.
Like I just want to put my like pee paws.
I know you do. I would too, but we can't. So sorry about that.
It's
Okay.
like I'm just gonna lick myself in a corner now.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so I can't get over how corgis poop because they're so long and their butt, like, it looks like the Hershey Kiss machine where their, like, butts touch the ground. And I'm just like, that can't be comfortable. Like, being a corgi, like, the existence of a corgi is just inherently uncomfortable. And I don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, but they're just, like, also, I mean, they're also kind of aggressive, but I feel like they're just, like, happy little dogs, just, like, pooping weird and walking weird. Like,
Do you think dachshunds poop the same way?
I wonder.
I don't think I've ever seen a long dog use the restroom.
It's so funny that you use the terminology, use the restroom, because Paul will be like, he'll let the dogs out in the morning, he'll be like, go to the restroom. And I'm like, the restroom is like a human concept, right? Like, dogs they're like taking a shit out the back.
Is it better to stand in your little sliding door and be like, take a shit?
And I wonder what my neighbors think, because I'm literally like, yeah, come on, go shit, let's go. Like,
so wait, okay, update. Did the house sell yet?
no, they had an open house yesterday.
Okay, guys, we're still here. We're here a month later, and this house is still on the market. So, I don't know. Put it out there.
You would think that they would, I don't know if they've lowered the price. I haven't actually looked. But after like a month or so, I would say like it's time to lower your price.
It's
right?
1.3 million now instead of 1.4 million.
It's a bargain.
It's a steal. I just had something that lived rent-free in my head, and I can't remember what it is. Right now, it's probably like Murder on the Dance Floor, because it's everywhere. Saltburn lives rent-free in my head. It was something like a video or like a song that it just, or like a meme.
Yeah.
You know, there's like that. It's like that kind of stuff. And I had it. It'll come to me later, I'm sure. Okay. But just like, yeah.
We'll come back to it. Also, Murder on the Dance Floor is living rent-free in my head too.
Yeah. Also because it's in every reel.
It is.
Somehow.
It is.
My icebreaker for this week was I have been driving around a lot lately because it's what I do for my job and for my life. I've seen a lot of good license plates, a lot of good vanity plates lately. I saw one, I was driving, this was I feel like it was a month ago, but I was behind a truck, the license plate said dump him. It was great.
Awesome.
There was one, there's like dandelion. I saw one that said it was IM space BTMN, like Batman. I'm Batman.
It took me a second. I was like,
and I love the challenge because like I'm a words person. I love the challenge of like, what does the license plate say?
Yeah.
So my favorite one that I've ever seen was in Texas, where everyone's, you know, they have fancy cars. It was like a Lamborghini or one of those high-end brands, and it said 401k RIP. And that's my favorite license plate I've ever seen. So I was like, what are the good vanity plates that you've seen lately?
Okay, so I actually just read an article about this because every year Colorado, I guess, puts out a list of the ones that they deny for bad language or whatever. And I laughed so hard at this one because Paul told me, so we drive a Volvo. We have an XC60, and someone tried to get sexy, like SX whatever, C60 instead of XC60, and I was like, that is so good. Like, and I'm like, why did they, like, how did they, I mean, I'm sure they like probably spelled it out, and so I was like, I feel like there's a way to get around the algorithm that they have to choose what license plates to deny, but I was like, man, that's really good. Like,
I did see one the other day that was, you know how it's like letter, and then it's like letter, number. Sometimes it was like the 4 letters in the front were like a naughty word, but like the letters were all jumbled up. Yeah. And I was like, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Like, not intentional at all, but I was like, someone didn't QA this.
Yeah, right? You know? Like, yeah, exactly. I feel like there are definitely a lot more that slip through the cracks.
Yeah. So that's what I've been thinking about is like as I drive around. Yeah. The interesting.
I always, whenever I do like road trips too, sometimes I'll see ones and then I just can't stop thinking about it because I can't figure out what it is. And it's always something you're like, you know, it's like deeply like personal or whatever, but like then Paul and I will try and like make up what we think it is, and I'm just like, this is like, I know this means something to you, person who got the vanity plate, but I'm like, if you're gonna get a vanity plate, like, make me feel something, make me laugh, or make me think, you know. I'm not like, it's like Karen's BMW or something, and I'm like, sure is, like, that's great.
I mean, but then you know it's Karen's BMW.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of Karen, I'm just going on a tear now.
It's fine. So just so you all have the context, we're doing a wine gab. We got a bottle of wine because we wanted to, because it's almost, I didn't do dry January, Ash did damp January, but it's almost the end of the month, and we said, you know what, it's time. So we have our bottle of wine. We just ate a bunch of mac and cheese. We're living, we're sliving.
We are sliving,
if you will.
I feel so good too. I'm like a nice carb heavy meal, and a glass of wine. I'm gonna like go to bed.
You're gonna go to bed at like 9:30.
Yeah. Paul's gonna come pick me up.
Or we're gonna go straight to sleep.
The chauffeur will come get me.
So we will get back on topic, but we're also just getting in it right now. Okay, sorry. We'll just kind of cover all the things going on and thoughts on life right now. Yeah, so apparently, okay, so speaking of the name Karen, I have this sinking feeling that the name Ashley is becoming the next Karen. Why?
Because, okay, so, and not in the same way that Karen is the angry person at the, you know, the restaurant or whatever, who's always like bitching about the manager. But I keep seeing these memes about the name Ashley, and it's like directly correlated to all of those millennial girls, like the ones that wear the hats with like the thigh-high boots and the jeans and the sweaters,
like the fall moms.
The fall moms, yeah. And thankfully, like, I'm just like an ASHLEY girl, but like it's always like Ashley with like, you know, the G and the silent Z or whatever. And I'm like, I mean, at least I'm not that Ashley, but I'm like, is that where we're headed? Is that my life? Am I always going to be like this millennial mom, or am I going to get like stereotyped for my name?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Hopefully not.
I don't think so.
But I also feel like it's that like generic 90s baby name. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
I mean, as someone with a fellow 90s baby name.
Yeah. Like, it's like, we're one of thousands, you know? I mean, how many Emilys and Ashleys are there at the gym?
Like 20.
There's a lot.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't know what I'm gonna do if my name becomes the next Karen. So
I don't think you're a millennial anymore because Ash bought low-rise jeans. This is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It stresses me out a little bit, but I respect you as a person and a fashionista and a friend.
Listen, I was in a really low place when I bought them because I had just gone through like some sort of meeting hell at my job that I quit.
Surprise.
Which we can talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know, have you ever reached that level of burnout where you have a pressing deadline and you're like, I have got to get this done, but like you just have this visceral like negative reaction, and I'm just like, I cannot even like go near my computer right now. Like it is physically painful to me. So I laid in bed and I was like, I'm gonna online shop because that's how I cope. And I don't know what came over me. Like Abercrombie had a sale and the low-rise jeans were jeaning really well on this model, and I'm like, you know what? Am I 6 feet tall and do I have really long legs like this particular woman? No, but I'm gonna give it a try.
Yeah.
And I bought them, and I was like, you know what? I don't hate them. And I don't hate them because, you know, you remember our issue with sitting down in jeans.
Sitting jeans versus standing jeans.
Yeah, so I firmly believe, okay, on one hand, low-rise jeans are definitely sitting down jeans, but now I have to be mindful. So I'm like, I have room for like my stomach to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But now I have to be mindful of like my butt. My butt coming out. So it's like, I don't really know. The saga continues.
We'll see. You might wear them this weekend.
Yeah.
So we'll see if
I'm gonna bust them out.
make a splash. No, when I went shopping for jeans, it was a couple months ago, and it's like I finally made the decision to diversify and buy a light wash. And it was like, this was a big deal for a young millennial such as myself. I was like, I can't have 5 pairs of dark wash jeans. I can't do that anymore. I need to like growth.
Yeah, that's huge.
So yeah, I actually like them a lot. I didn't think that I would, but still it's like odd to not wear something skinny because you're just conditioned to wear skinny jeans for a very long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I respect you. I'm not there yet, but
it's okay. I tend to, I think that the trend, like fashion trends are super interesting because there are these like cycles, right? And so I'm not getting rid of my skinny jeans because I just know they're gonna come back, and they already have in some sense, you know, like the trend cycles are happening faster and faster with the advent of like social media and people always trying to be like the first on to something. So I'm like, I will just put them in the back of the closet. They had a good run. I'm enjoying the wider legs right now, but
I was at Aritzia yesterday. They had the full length denim skirts.
Yeah.
Are back, and I was like, oh no! Like I am trying to get into fashion-y skirts because I don't always want to wear pants, but I don't always want to wear leggings.
Right.
And Aritzia has some really nice skirts, but they had these full length denim skirts, and I was like, I'm not 10 years old. Where are the gauchos? Where are the clogs? I used to wear pink and brown together from Old Navy. And I was like, I cannot go back to this point in my life where like I'm wearing a camisole.
A camisole.
A camisole with the built-in bra.
The lace on it. Yeah.
My parents hated those because they were so like they were very like anti-label. And of course my grandma discovered Abercrombie because my cousin, bless you to my cousin, I love you. But my cousin was like more fashionable than me. And so my grandma figured out what Abercrombie was, started buying us all this shit from Abercrombie. My parents hated it. And so they had the camis with the lace, like the scalloped lace. They hated that, but I wanted to wear it so bad. And I just was like thrown back yesterday when I was at Aritzia, like, do not tell me these full length. You can't move in those. I can't move in those.
No.
I was like, these full length denim skirts are back, dude. Even with like the slit in the front. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I have strong feelings about those. Well, I had, and then again, right? It's like you see somebody who styles it, and you're like,
yeah,
that looks amazing on you. Probably not going to look the same on me, but am I going to buy it anyways? Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. The denim maxi skirts remind me of like the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
And those movies that they made where they were like always traveling someplace cool.
They were so cool.
I remember like growing up in that phase where, you know, labels were, and I feel like somewhat we've gotten away from like labels these days, right? But like in my heyday, it was like you had to have Abercrombie and you had to have like Tommy Hilfiger was really big when I was growing up, and like I'm trying to think of some of the other ones.
Hollister, American. Those were the big ones when I was in like middle school. American Eagle, but it was like all over the front of the shirt.
It had to say it, like really big. And Calvin Klein was another one, and like I don't know. And I just remember wanting those. Like my family, like we didn't grow up with a lot of money, and it was like I just felt like it was so hard because like my mom would take me to like Aeropostale, and that was like social suicide. And I'm like, why though?
Really?
Like in my day, it was.
Okay.
And I think in my day I was trying, you know, I'm trying to like cop the style, but then people would be like, oh, Aeropostale. And I remember this one guy giving me shit for wearing like, I bought Fila shoes. Like everybody had K-Swiss. That was like the shoe. Yeah. And I bought Fila's because they looked kind of similar. They were cheaper. And he gave me like so much shit about wearing Fila's. And I was like, I wore them once and I'm like, I can never wear them again. And now I'm just like, dude, the hoops that you had to jump through to like be considered, you know, cool and fashionable. And I think that's at least part of where my like super fashion forward brain comes from, is this like stigma of not being fashionable when I was a kid. But I also just really enjoy it. And I enjoy trends. I think that trends are super interesting. And I think that they are like signifiers of like the times that we're going through.
Yeah.
And I like watching all of this stuff repeat.
Did you ever read the Click books? They might have been a little like after your time, but it was kind of in the same genre of like Gossip Girl. There's another one. There's another like series of these rich kids in New York. But there were these girls, and there's like 4 like rich girls. Their parents are wealthy. They live in these huge homes. And then there's one, you know, who's presented as like the quote unquote like poor girl, like not as wealthy. And her dad, the main character's name is Massey Block. And this poor girl's name is Claire, and their dads are friends. And so then Claire's family goes through some shit, and they need some place to live, so they move into the Block's mansion's like guest home. And so Claire ends up going to the same school, like prep school, as these girls. And they're so mean, and there's so much about fashion, and eventually they all become friends, right? But it was a big thing about how like she wore Keds. And these girls were like, holy shit, she's poor, she's wearing Keds. They were supposed to be in middle school. They were like 12 bullying this girl about wearing, and I was like, oh my god. But you bet I devoured those books.
Right?
Because Massey had an all-white bedroom and like her own dog. Oh no, she had an all-white bedroom and like one of those like catch-all bowls with like one green apple in it. And her own dog, and I was like, that's the coolest shit I've ever heard.
Like, I know I will have made it in life when I have these items.
Not at all, but like, I just was remembering that. Or like Gossip Girl, you know, there's all this like stuff about fashion. You're like, you're 18.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and Gossip Girl like blows my mind. That is one of my favorite shows of all time. That's my comfort show, I would say. Like, I go back and I watch some good old-fashioned Gossip Girl when I need to, you know, unwind and you know, I just like watching rich people problems. But yeah, so I remember also being in middle school, and it was always like, I feel like no girls ever came right out and teased me. It was always like boys for some reason, but I don't feel like that's everyone's experience. But like some boy like teased me about shopping at TJ Maxx because I like had gotten something, and he was like, oh, that's where poor people shop. Well, no, because some of that shit is still expensive.
And also because nowadays, like, you're a Maxxinista,
right?
I know
it's
some
like
people,
well, and now it's cool to you know, like there's like loud budgeting, and there's like people are thrifting, and that's a cool thing. When I was thrifting, I couldn't tell people I went to thrift stores for most of my clothing because like that's what poor people do. I was always, you know, and it was always this like class system, which was very strange to me because I grew up in a pretty diverse area. I mean, granted, I'll still grow up in the Midwest, and, you know, it was about as diverse as, you know, Ohio can get. But still, you know, like it was just very strange to me that was a big deal. But yeah, I definitely learned some things about what to buy and what's like, I guess the term now is like chuggy.
I said chuggy the other day, and someone was like, I forgot about that.
Well, apparently like Gen Z is bringing that term back, like chuggy, and apparently skinny jeans are chuggy to them, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with that.
I don't know. I'm gonna keep wearing my skinny jeans every so often.
It's honestly, like, I just think fashion is like, wear what you like and what you're comfortable in, and like, we should just stop shaming people about the things they wear, because it's kind of crazy.
Well, Ash has a surprise.
So I soft quit my job. I'm gonna say soft quit because what happened is I audio messaged Emily, and I was on my way back home from a doctor appointment, and I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm great. I quit my job.
and I knew, I saw it come in, and it said Ash, one audio message, and I was laying in bed or something, and I was like, this is it. This is gonna be great.
Yeah. So,
but like in the way that like and we've talked a little bit about your job and just sort of some of the struggles that you were having with it. Like, I respect you for standing up for yourself, because like I'm kind of struggling with that a little bit at my job, and like being able to set boundaries, or like recognizing when people are overstepping their boundaries. I'm like, again, like you inspire me to want to do these things, because I feel like it's hard professionally. Like personally, sure, but professionally is a completely different story.
Yeah. And I think that it's especially difficult in this market right now, in the job market, because a lot of people, I mean, 2 years ago, I would have quit much sooner, but you know, now I have been, it's just not as easy to get a job, especially the tech industry is just on fire right now.
Yeah.
And so as a software engineer, I need to, you know, realize that I'm not going to have as many opportunities as I did before, but also it feels really good to set boundaries.
Yeah.
It felt so good, because I think what happens is when I don't do that, and when in the past, in jobs that I've had, when I haven't really set my boundaries, especially like, it's very hard to do up front, right? Because you don't want to come in like swinging, right? Like, oh, well, these are all the things, here are my demands, or whatever, you know. I'm like, I feel like I have to like get a feel for the job and everything. But the more I was getting a feel for this job, the more I felt like, and I see this a lot with like just tech companies in general, but there's this urgency culture that has no foundation whatsoever, right? They're like, well, we've got to push out this product by this timeline or else we're completely fucked. And I'm like, but why? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why I'm having to go through this fight or flight reaction every time I get on a phone call with you and you say we're up against a wall, or, you know, they use some other stupid corporate jargon to be like, oh, we got to get boots on the ground, whatever. And it's like, okay, it's not war. We're not, you know, I'm not in any kind of situation where someone's going to die if I don't get this particular product out. And so I was trying to understand was, you know, why are we pushing so hard for these deadlines to be, and I understand, right? Like, you have to have some kind of time frame.
Yeah.
That's fine. But when you are pushing for something that's completely arbitrary, and you are stressing everybody out on your team, and my work was suffering directly as a result of this, because I'm just getting whipped around from thing to thing. Now this is the priority. Now this is the priority. And I was like, I have worked in this industry for too damn long and have had this happen too many times. I was just fed up. And so, you know, the final straw was, there was a travel requirement that was sprung on me last minute, and I said, I can't go, and I'm done here. Like, I'm done with the company. I'm a contractor too, so I think that's important to note that in my situation, it's not a standard 2-week notice. It's pretty much like I could have said, you know, I'm terminating my contract at the end of the day. I gave them a little more leeway because I'm honestly concerned about my colleagues, and I want to make sure that I'm handing things off properly, because I have like, I take a lot of pride in my work, and I don't know, I honestly don't want to leave a job and then being like, oh, Ashley did this shit, and it, you know, oh, this looks like shit. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to leave things that way, but, you know, also because I'm just concerned that that more people are going to be more stressed out because I'm leaving, and I definitely don't want to depart in that manner. But yeah, I think it is really important, you know, to talk about how difficult having these difficult conversations is, because I guess getting back to the whole job market and everything, I feel like maybe this plays into it a little bit, maybe it doesn't, but it's harder to say what you want to say when you're like, oh, could my job potentially be on the line if I speak my mind? And most of the time it's not. And actually what I found is that when I did bring my concerns to my employer, he was like very amenable, and he agreed with me on a lot of the points.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yeah, I absolutely think those are our problems and the things that we need to work on, which was surprising because I don't know, in my head I'm always like blowing it out of proportion, and I was like, oh, what if they fire me on the spot when I bring this up? And I'm like, would that really be so bad though? But yeah, at the same time, it's definitely a weird environment, or it's a weird job environment right now. So I guess it's harder because of that, and it's also harder because we're just people pleasers, and again, it's like it's so hard to just speak your mind because we want to make people feel comfortable and happy, and that's like not always the case in professional life.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now, just like how to advocate for myself and advocate for my teammates and like get us the kind of support and like the time that we need. But I'm nervous, and I've been with the company now almost like 8 months, so like we're coming up on a year, which is crazy, but like and we are working on structures for evaluations every 6 months and a year. I'm assuming you like get a bonus or something, or like that's typical practice, right? Like you assume that that's coming up, but it's like I'm really nervous to talk to my manager more than I already have, because it's like I don't want this to reflect negatively on me when I am just trying to advocate. Like I have teammates who this is their first job, or they're still relatively young, like they're trying to figure out where they want their career to go. And I've seen burnout happen. I've seen it happen in big tech, when people who are young like want to prove themselves and they do a lot, and it's like so like that's important to me. But it's scary. It's just like, I don't want to get fired, I don't want to get like laid off again, knock on wood, after the first time. So like how do you find that balance between speaking your mind enough to make a difference? Maybe that's just it.
Yeah, and it's hard too, because I feel like there's also, you kind of have to like read the room too, and I feel like a lot of places know damn well what they are not doing well, and they kind of don't give a shit, or they might give a shit, but they don't have the resources, or resources in time, money, whatever that may be, to actually make it happen. And so part of me is like, is this feedback that I'm giving even going to go anywhere? So I think it's, especially in the work that you're doing, I think it is important to still advocate, and hopefully there will be enough people who are saying the same things as you.
Well, it's also like we try to advocate and help advocate for the families that we serve, and try to help them, because like again, we support families of kids with special needs. There's a lot when it comes to Medicaid, there's a lot when it comes to like school is a big topic that we hear a lot, like parents just kind of go through the ringer when it comes to finding the right education and place for their kids, like helping them understand therapy, providing all these resources. So it's just like, if we're advocating for this population of people that we're helping, why can we not also, why does it feel like wrong to advocate for ourselves? That to me just, I don't know.
Your mental health matters too, in the person, in that way, in the workforce and everything, and other things. And I think it's like, I think that the thing that I learned is that I guess I looked at it as like, when I was giving my feedback, I was giving it to the organization as a whole. And I watched there's like this career coach guy. He's actually a public speaking coach, but he helps with like career, like CEOs and people who have to make speeches all the time in front of like big important figures. And he said something that I was like, it kind of stuck with me. He was like, you know, when you are giving feedback or when you are giving bad news or giving something, he's like, think about like everything that you are delivering is a gift to that organization. Like how are you gifting them with like what you are talking about? Are you gifting them with like awareness? Because like maybe they don't know. I mean, it's not likely, but you know, or if they do know, maybe it's something that they just need to be reminded. You know, in our case, like I believe that we are both talented professionals, and it's, you know, what I'm discovering now as I continue to stay on day after day with this contract is that I am a valued member of that team. And I think, you know, you're a valued member, and I think that they should be open to feedback in, you know, in a professional way. And I think thinking of it that way as like, oh, here's this little tidbit that I'm going to give you. It's my gift of saying, you know, these things need to change or else you're not going to retain good talent, you know? So I don't know if that helps, but it helped me. It helped me think about like, okay, you know, these people are, and they're used to giving and receiving feedback, you know, at least most managers are.
I think it's just getting everybody bought into that mindset, which can be tough.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, right? It's like saying the thing is one thing, but then are they actually going to act on
processing it and implementing it? So are you going to start looking?
Yeah, so I'm kind of all over the place right now because I think now that I don't have all of this stress just taking over every second of my day, my creativity is coming back, which is really nice. And it's usually when I have these like bursts of creativity, it usually shows up in like business ideas. Like I'm like, oh, I want to start this business and do this thing, you know. And so that it's a little chaotic, but I'm kind of looking into like some new business ventures, more to come on if they actually happen. But I also want to be more intentional with my career and like where I go from here, because, you know, I've talked about this before, but I feel like I've always chosen a career path that was safe, in not so much in terms of like I mean, I've definitely worked very hard and gone through some like really tough stuff just in my career as an engineer, but like I've always chosen industries that are really safe, you know, and they just also happen to be super boring. Like I've been in like finance and healthcare and health insurance for almost 10 years now. And I'm like, I don't want to crunch numbers anymore in the sense of like, you know, processing insurance claims or, you know, doing any kind of billing systems. Like I just don't personally, like, that's not getting me going, you know. And so it's really hard for me to be motivated on a day-to-day basis when the data that I'm working with, I'm like, that's cool, like great, we, you know, process however many claims and, you know, we do these like programs and stuff like that. I don't know. I think I want to move more towards, like, I've been on this, like, I feel like there's a divergence of like where I want to go. I either want to go like the nonprofit route, because I think I would feel really good about that, or I want to go the fashion route, which is completely different, but you know, I do have a personal vested interest in that. It's just, those jobs are so hard, you know? And so that's why I was asking you about, you know, I think it's super interesting being that you worked at like a top tech company at Microsoft, because I think I've always been scared a little bit to really reach out and try for a company that's that big or that well known, because I know that I'm competing with other top talent. And that's where that imposter syndrome starts to kick in, because I'm like, well, I know that I'm good at my job, but it's so intimidating to prove it.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like when I'm put on the spot in those ways, it's so like, ugh, it just, I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely, but I definitely want to try now.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, I'm at a point where I would like to like build up my career in a big way.
I feel that. That's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and maybe it's like getting closer to turning 30 and feeling like, you know, what are these milestones? Not that, you know, everyone's on their own timeline, and again, you can choose to make what you want out of an age or a stage in life, but it's like, I'm almost 30, dude. Like, I want my career to be where I feel like it's supposed to be.
Right.
And it doesn't right now. So like, what do you do to make it that? And maybe for you, it is like trying out at that big tech company or exploring something new. Like, there's nothing, it's never too late.
Yeah.
You know? So I think big tech is really good when it's good.
Yeah.
Over the last year, it hasn't been so good, and it continues to not be so good. So I think that's definitely, like, it's something I think about, because I see a lot on LinkedIn, I see a lot on Instagram of like tech layoffs to start the year, and you're like, yeah, it's kind of nuts. But there's a lot of opportunity in big tech. Like we just talked about this, like the structure is set up to work, the companies are big and they're established for a reason. There's a lot of like ways you can take your career, and they get a lot of really cool projects sometimes to work on. So
yeah,
I'm always going to support someone trying something new if you think that's gonna benefit you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I will. I'm gonna go for it. I think now that I have the actual time, it will help, because I think part of the most intimidating part for me is like, I've always worked with a recruiter, and that, you know, that makes things really nice and easy, but then I'm also at the whim of like whatever particular job they have.
Yeah.
And now when you apply for jobs, it's like, if you don't, you know, if you're like putting in an application online, there's just like, they have like their internal system of like vetting that's usually driven by some algorithm. And I'm like, I'm just getting filed out automatically. And so I'm like, I actually have to do this right. I have to find a recruiter who's working with the companies that I want to work with. And then I have to, you know, sell them on me, and that's just, it's just a big, it's a process, but I'm motivated, I think. I'm also motivated to do like 20 different things. There's like a lot of, I've been thinking a lot about some of the side hustles that I have enjoyed doing in the past, and I'm like, do I want to try and monetize those again?
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of things up in the air, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So what are your goals, I guess, or like where would you like to be in your career?
Gosh, I tell people, or like, this is my spiel. I just like I have been and was trying to get my job to be like communications full time officially for a really long time. And communication is a weird field because I feel like it's tough to explain to people. It can be very variable. Like when I was in school, communication as a major was in like the liberal arts side of things. Marketing was in the business school. So sometimes they're lumped together in a role or in a team, but not always. And so there's so many options, and like that's the thing I loved about being at Microsoft, was like there were so many things you could do. You could work for a leader. You could be part of like, you know, like a leadership team that did other things than just like write their emails. You could work on events. You could, I mean, they have gaming, right? Like, so that was a whole part of it. Campaigns, like all of the other technologies. And like when I was there, you know, they'd put out an advertisement or some campaign, and I'm like, that's so cool. I want to be a part of that. So my goal, kind of just like at a base level, is I want to be like communication manager, communication director of something. I want to have the space professionally to be creative. And I get that now through like stuff like this, through the writing that I do. You know, I see it in other ways, like things that pique my interest, like commercials or like TV shows, I think are just great.
Yeah.
You know, print campaigns, like ads. But I want to do that professionally. I want to get that fulfillment professionally. So there are still a lot of ways that you can go about it. You could be at a marketing agency. You could be at a company doing comms. Like, you know, a lot of times now, you know, vendors that have, you know, communication experience will, like Microsoft loves to use vendors. Other big companies are the same. So they'll just put a lot of vendors on projects. But communication, I feel, can be like, for being such a field populated with women, because it can be very women heavy, it sometimes feels like an old boys club. It feels like when you were in college, you had to have an internship at an agency, and that's the only way you're going to stay at the agency. Like, there's some really big ones and headquartered out of like New York and some of these major cities, and they work on, you know, big campaigns, or they're kind of the ones that like companies will call. So it's really hard to break in, and it's like, if you don't have, it's almost like agency to agency. Like, if you don't have, if you haven't been at Ogilvy, they won't let you in at Edelman. Like, it's just kind of a revolving door. So for someone who hasn't had agency experience, it's like, how do you get in? So it feels a little like, I don't want to say gatekeepy, but it's just, it's hard to get your foot in the door. So like my goal, right, like in the short term, is like, I want my title to just say like communications manager, because then when someone searches me on LinkedIn, or when that AI is scanning my resume, like that's the buzzword that's already in there that'll set you up for that next thing. So that's like what I want. I'm trying to figure out how to get there without necessarily like, I want that to be my full-time job. I don't want it to be an add-on to like responsibility that should be handled by someone else. And just like find a way to break in. So that's where I'm struggling. And two, I feel, and I don't know if other people have experienced this, but it's like comms is kind of an interesting field, because it doesn't feel like there's a lot out there for like mid-career or early career people. It's, you can come out of college or have a year or two experience under your belt and do like social media, which, and that's not to say like, I mean, TikTok now is so big, there are specific people that are just focusing on TikTok, and like TikTok is something I refuse to use. So like I would be hiring someone that did TikTok, right? So it's either that, or they want someone with like 10 plus years of experience. So when you have 7 to 8 years of experience, like what do you do? And so, and like, I think this is one area in which we kind of disagree, or like you have different experiences than I do. Like when we talked about this last week, like I don't necessarily have imposter syndrome, because I know I'm good. Right? Like I get like this, like when I blog and I tell people about my blog, and it's like, I hope it's good, and they're like, yeah, it's good, and I'm like, I hope you're not lying to me, right? Like I like to think that people have been honest enough over the course of my life that I can have confidence in what I do. I'm scared of failure. I'm scared of getting that job and just somehow like not being creative enough, or not being enough maybe, or just like something doesn't work. And then it's like, well, what do? I have to reevaluate my whole life if I'm finally in this position and it's just not working. So I'm in a place of wanting organizations to like take a chance on me, just like give me the chance to do it, and that'll show if it works or not. And if it doesn't work, you hire someone at like, and I reevaluate my life. But if it works and it's really good, like I'll have finally achieved that thing that I want to achieve. And then hopefully and then from there it's like, do you want to be a director? Do you want to manage? Do you want to do this or that? It's just, I miss the creative fulfillment. Like, I don't know. I just really want that. Like that's my goal. Unless we take off. Which like, thank you to all of our listeners. Keep listening. We love you. Also, we need this podcast to like go somewhere so we can, I would love to do this for a living, to be honest, like just have conversation. Like I love people when I choose to put myself in a spot of like, I want to know more about you and share that. I don't like strangers. That's a whole separate discussion. But it's like, I would love to do this for a living and just like talk about things and create content. And I know a lot of content creators, some of them get to a point where they're tired and sure, but it's like, again, we talk about boundaries. If you're falling prey to that demand of like, I need to put out a video every week or something, sure, you're gonna get burned out, but like, we're a couple of days late on this one, we know it, but like, life is busy. So we just have to be okay with it. So if you're okay with it, does that set you up to be successful?
Right.
So.
Right. And I think when you find your niche audience, you know, because I think what a lot of creators are aiming for is that viral, you know, they want things to go viral and they want to blow up followers. But because one video goes viral, like to me, it's more important to establish a base of people. It'd be great to be viral because then your content gets out to a lot of people. Yeah. But what I want are the people, like the people at the gym. Where's your next episode? You know? They are following us because they have a vested interest and they want to see where we're at and they want to hear about our lives. You know, I think. You know, I think, you know, so I think that it's really interesting to, you know, think about how can you be super mindful about curating that experience so that you have people who are coming back who are like, I actually like what these people are saying and you know, it's not necessarily about the viralness or the continuing to be viral or all of these like, you know, putting out 15 videos like in a week or something like that. Like that's realistically, you know, that's I mean, if you're a full-time content creator, but then I feel like you've also, you're just on all the time. Your online presence is always on, and it's like, where do you set that boundary of saying like, okay, because like right now, like our 9-to-5 jobs, like more or less, we probably have a boundary of like, we stop working at some time and then we go back to it. But I'm like, when you live online, I feel like there's this draw to sharing every experience. You go out at night, you want to share your dinner or share whatever you're doing or sharing your weekend and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that I feel like you would need to set boundaries with social media.
Microsoft has these awards that are based on performance, and I personally don't really like them because I feel like they do a lot of times like the salespeople win, but that's because like you're trying to meet a quota, right? Like that's the whole point of sales. And so you know, they do them every year, and there's kind of like they do it by region, so you win like basically a vacation. If you win, and but I also think to a degree, just a little bit. They kind of, I feel like they reward people who like just like work a lot. Which again, as someone who values work-life balance, it's not going to be me. Anyways, a couple of years ago, they have like the general awards by tiers, and then they have like one. Maybe this was new a couple of years ago. One like the guy that did the most, like far and beyond. And it was this guy from England, and he won. I don't know, whatever. He was in sales, sold whatever. But he also had a YouTube channel where he would upload these like tech videos, like filmed himself explaining how to do techie things. Channel was very popular, and I am all for education, and like YouTube can be a cesspool just like any site, but it also like there's a lot to be said about learning how to like code through a video or like that sort of thing. So he got this award, like, you know, he sold all this stuff, he did this YouTube channel. I looked him up on LinkedIn because I'm the FBI agent of the friend group. I looked him up on LinkedIn. This man also like does Ironmans. Of course. And they had this video stream going of the awards because it's part of a conference that like all of us tune into every year. And so they had him, and I'm pretty sure he had a wedding ring on. And I was like, how does this man, like this man is like it must know something that the rest of us don't. Because how did you meet this quota? You have time for your YouTube videos, you run Ironmans, and you are potentially married. Like, how do you find time for anything else? Family. It was crazy. But I'm like, good for you. Like, you deserve that vacation 100% and like everything that's coming your way. But it's like, I have time for one activity after work, and it's the hour and a half that I spend seeing my friends, and then like I'm in bed trying to read a book,
right?
You know, or do this, but this is like once a week. I don't know. I was like, you're an angel, sir.
Yeah.
You must be, because I don't know how that works.
It's funny because that's actually my boss for this most recent job is the same way. Like he's like a triathlon, like he runs all the Ironmans. He was telling me that he wakes up at 4 a.m. every day, and he trains for like an hour and a half, and then he like has his super regimented routine and everything like that, and then he like goes to work, and he's just on all day. I mean, he is literally never off of meetings, and I'm like, something about that screams trauma to me, but like, because I recognize that in myself. Like when I was like 23, I literally never sat down. I mean, it was like from like I would wake up and it was just like go, and I was always filling my time with activities and things like that. And then it wasn't until like pretty much the pandemic that when I slowed down and I was like, oh shit, like I have been running myself ragged for 10 years, you know. And but I also feel like, I don't know, I guess there's something to be said about like the dissociation of it all. Like if you're just like, if you like, sometimes I feel like they're just doing the things and then they're not like reflecting back on like, oh, how am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling, you know? And then I'm like, am I like doing myself a disservice by reflecting back on how I feel in my body? Because I know I can get more done, but then I'm like, to me, like prioritizing my health and my mental stability is the most important thing in my life, right? So that's why I'm like, I do one social thing a day. You know, and I'm constantly like monitoring like how do I feel in my body? How do I feel about having social interactions and everything like that? Because I also recognize that like when I get too full in my day, like I tend to like, I'm just not my best self. I don't have the enough attention to like give to my friends. So like if I'm hanging out in a social interaction, like if I haven't taken that space for myself, I'm not going to be there fully for my friends. And that's, you know, I'm like, well then why am I here? You know, if I can't give my full attention to somebody. So, you know, so I wonder if, like, I would love to talk to one of these people and be like, how does it work? How does it work? You know, like, and what are you feeling in your body? Like, how's your mental health?
You're about to therapize. You're about to therapize. But it's like, if you want to be a high achiever 100%, like, I don't know this guy. I've never met this guy. Like, I have never even watched one of his YouTube videos. So I can't speak to his life. If you want to do that, like, do you, that's great. Again, you deserve like all the good things and all the success that come your way. But it's like on our first episode when we were like, we're not doctors for a reason. You know, like it's not our thing. But if you are willing to take the time and energy to like help other people on the internet 100%. Just right. I like to scroll on Twitter and look at stupid shit, you know?
And maybe that's like, he could be like a perfectly well-adjusted person who has all the energy for that. And it's like, you know, I think people just have these varying energy levels, and it's like, you know, that's great for him. And I'm glad, you know, and I also do not have the same level of energy in any way.
I high achieved too much from the ages of like 5 to 18. And I said, you know what? It's okay to be a mid achiever.
Right. And then and then for me, like I was just like raw dogging ADHD for my whole life. Like, like everything's so hard. Why is it so hard? Like, so now I'm just like, I'm cool with being mediocre, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, if anyone wants to offer Ash a job, or if anybody wants to offer us a sponsorship, I can't talk because this wine is
It's hitting.
It's hitting.
This
I'm
is
getting
like...
sleepy and it's 8:30. If anybody wants to help us get sponsored, I think that's our next step is how do we find the brands that we like to get to sponsor the little podcast that could. So if anybody knows anybody at Josh Wines, we would be really, really thankful. Or maybe like, I don't know, Gucci.
Yeah.
Noble project I've been trying for years and spending money is apparently not doing it for me. So if you want to sponsor our podcast, that'd be really great.
I know, it's like what brands would align with our brand? What is our brand?
I mean, just being two gal pals. Just gals being pals.
Just gals being pals. A little bit of wine.
Abercrombie, Madewell.
Anybody who supports the Fat Ass Committee.
Clothes, yeah. Anyone that wants to give me free clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Wine. I don't know. I would do like an outdoor brand, maybe like one of them. Is there like a ski company? I don't know. That sounds stupid as shit. I know there's ski all my stuff is from like Dope. I would love to get sponsored by.
I do love
Dope.
their stuff. It is very colorful and
anything
fun.
Pink. Squishmallows.
Emily should buy stock in Squishmallows for how many that she owns.
They should give me free ones. Or you can do like when they made one that's based on John Summit, they can make one that's based on me.
Oh my god, what if we got little Em and Ash Squishmallows?
Squishmallows? It's like Funko Pop, but like for little soft
girls.
Right? Yeah. For the little sad girls.
Oh my god, I love
the mentally ill. Oh man.
Oh, that's great.
Well, do we want to end with shout outs? I was thinking about this because I know we have people that like actively listen, and I'm making it a goal during our actual like storytelling to not use names.
Yeah.
But I'm like, for our friends that do really like have things going on or that are doing fun things or are listening to us, I think it's maybe okay to use names in like this one setting.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think so.
Yeah, so thank you, Anthony, for listening to us and asking for an episode 4. We were just late because we were busy this weekend. Shout out to the women's basketball team. I haven't seen you play yet, but I'm assuming things are going well.